It's rare to step into a church without noticing the vibrant colors of a stained glass window. This staple of sacred art, however, is not just found in churches. Here at Judson Studios, stained glass has been crafted to adorn not only countless places of worship, but also museums, public monuments, and even homes. As the oldest family-owned stained glass studio in America, Judson Studios combines traditional techniques with innovative technology that reimagines what the art form can be. David Judson, fifth generation president of the studio, will show us what goes into making glass art and tell us why the ancient art form is so relevant and important today. David, thank you so much for having us here in this beautiful historical place. When did it start? When did Judson Studios first start?
So Judson Studios originally was founded in 1897 by my great-great-grandfather and his three sons. We've been operating our stained glass firm in this building since 1920. And before that, this building was the School of Fine Arts for USC. So when USC was centralizing its campus, they moved the School of Fine Arts down to the main campus. And Judson moved in here, and we've been operating here since 1920. So I'm the fifth generation, and my son now is sixth generation working with us. And so, we're still going. Yeah.
What has your personal experience been working in a family business?
There's a lot of, it's a lot of advantages, and it can be challenging at times, but it's great. And it's something to be said because obviously your name's on it, so there's an amount of pride. You're carrying this legacy, right? And so trying to kind of handle that, but also kind of think about the future and today and change and all of these things that kind of factor into day-to-day decisions.
Now, did you always know that this was your future?
When I was young, this is what I wanted to do. And then, teenage college years was the last thing I wanted to do. So I traveled, I moved abroad. I lived in Spain for a number of years, tried out different things and experimented and really kind of wanted to go see what else was out there, which I think was really important for me to kind of realize that this was something that I really wanted to do. And so having questioned it and done other things, I was ready to come back when I came back, and it's been a passion ever since.
Now, stained glass is a staple in religious and cultural art. Was it always the goal for Judson Studios to be part of that sector?
The religious market and the religious sector has always been a part of stained glass. So, I think when Judson Studios was founded, there was always been a certain percentage of our projects that are religious. And so it's always been an aspect of who we are and what we do. And I think it always will be, just simply because stained glass is, resonates and still will always have a role in religious spaces.
Do you feel like there's something rewarding with that your art can go into these sacred places of worship? How does that make you feel?
This is something that people take very seriously. And so it's really important that we're kind of capturing the essence of the space and really an understanding of how people use that space as a worship space. And it really changes lives, and we hear about people who, their whole life grew up going to a particular church, for example, that they remember the stained glass windows. And that's something we hear about a lot. It just resonates with people. And we always tease the priests that if they're looking at the windows too much, maybe their sermon's a little too long.
I can't remember a time where I've been to a church and I'm not mesmerized by the beauty of it, by the way that the light comes in. As Angelinos, I'm very familiar with Our Lady of the Angels. And I know you have commissioned to work there as well. Can you tell us about that project?
Yeah, that was my father's favorite project, and he was very active in the church, and for him the cathedral was kind of a pinnacle, having spent a lot of his life going to Europe and looking at cathedrals and studying glass and everything like that. And while there's no stained glass in the sanctuary, we did move the windows from St. Vibiana's to the crypt down below the cathedral, and those are amazing, the beautiful windows, 19th century German windows. So going down in the crypt is a must-see when you go to the cathedral, to go down there. My father passed away shortly after that, and so it was a great experience for him to be able to be involved, and so it's a very dear project to us and our family.
You've clearly commissioned many projects. Is there a specific one that has been your favorite so far?
Well, I have two that I think are really
Yeah.
kind of significant. The first is our Savior Parish at USC, and that was really special because I spent several years designing those windows and working with the committee to come up with the designs. And so that job really resonates with me, especially with our history with USC and thinking about when designing those windows that they really wanted people to feel at home when they went to that space. And then the second one is the Church of the Resurrection in Leawood, Kansas, and it's the largest mainline denominational church in the country. We were competing against a very contemporary stained glass firm, and so the architecture of this space was very contemporary, and we were known as a traditional studio. As a traditional studio, we thought, well, we can do something more contemporary than a very contemporary artist can do more traditional work. We ended up winning the commission and trying to figure out exactly how we were going to make this window that we designed.
Yeah.
And so the answer quickly became fusing. Basically what fusing is that when you take colored glass and you put it into a kiln and you fuse it together, it'll remain stable over time. And so we had to find a space where we could really kind of lean into this fusing technique. And so that kind of pushed us out into a second facility. Expanding to a second facility was a big deal and something very emotional as a small family business to do. It'll be interesting to see where it goes because we're really the only major studio that's kind of taken on fusing as a method of making stained glass.
What would you say it's an average time that you work on a project?
Well, we have kind of smaller residential projects, for example, that can be done in weeks, 10 to 12 weeks or something like that for smaller commissions. We're working on a monastery project that's been going on for almost 7 years now, and we probably have another 3 or 4 years left on it. So it really depends on the scale. Yeah.
Now, what is something that you would like for people to take away when they see one of your pieces?
I think what we want people to go away with is just a little light of joy and kind of an experience of changing their mindset in a way. And we're so much in our computers and screens all the time now. I feel like the materials of glass, being a natural material, natural light, all of these things kind of resonate in your soul that are not something that you get every day. So I hope that that's what we bring to people's lives.
Well, David, thank you for showing us this space, but we have to start from this building. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So we're very proud of this building. It's a great old historic building that started the School of Fine Arts. And it was also the home of the Royal Guild of Fellow Crafters, which was kind of a group of craftspeople that met here at the turn of the century in Los Angeles. And so the We Can symbol that you see up there is actually their logo. And so we've kept that, and it's still kind of a part of the tradition of who we are. And we just love being here and love kind of the history and kind of the legacy of the building. And so we take a lot of pride in that. So yeah, I'll show you inside. This room is the cutting room. So this is kind of where the projects start. We have about almost 500 different colors and types of glass that we use. And we keep all of our samples in the windows for natural light because that's the best light to look at our colors. And this small rack was kind of put together to color a particular window. So once we get the design approved and we bring it in here and we start matching the color of the glass with the color of the drawing. And so that's why we can create this palette, because the colors look different when they're relating to another color. And so it's really important that we look at them all together and make sure we actually have some of them in our building so we can actually use it, the glass. So that's kind of what you see here. And there's primarily two types of glass that we use. We have a machine rolled glass, which is made in the United States. And so they just take molten glass and run it through rollers and create sheets of glass. And then there's a mouth-blown glass, what we call antique glass, which primarily comes from Europe, and they make really beautiful colors and textures and transitions of colors and everything. So that's really special glass that we use. Here on the table, what we have going on right now is this window here, which is a design for a monastery in Wyoming. And so right now, what you're looking at on the table is this panel right here. And,
wow. So it's way bigger than this, definitely.
So we have to break these windows up into small panels for a lot of reasons. One of them, they last longer when they're smaller panels.
Okay.
They're easier to handle. And so what we've done is we've created a full-size cartoon, and then we cut patterns, what we call patterns. And you see there's a number on the pattern. And then this pattern is cut to the exact size that we want the glass to be. And so the glass then, the pattern for this one would give us the exact shape. And we run a glass cutter along the edge of the glass to cut it to shape, and then it fits together. And then we piece everything together, similar to the way we color the windows. We like to see all the colors together. So after we're done cutting, then we paint.
Now, when it's painted, is it painted piece by piece or after?
It's painted piece by piece, yeah. So each piece gets handled individually and is hand painted and then fired. We're gonna pretend it's all painted and fired, and then it would go to the next room where we glaze.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll follow you.
So in here we're working on leading the panels. So we've this is actually a restoration project, which almost a third of our work is restoration work, meaning we take the windows out, we take them apart, and we put them back together. And so what we've done is we've taken a rubbing of the window, which is this paper that you see, because it's very important the sizes, because it has to fit back into the opening. So the rubbing then becomes our cartoon in essence. And all of the pieces have been repaired or fixed if they need attention. And then we take lead, which is basically strips of lead. It's like a little I-beam that you see here. And the reason we use lead is because it's a very soft metal. So you want to try and bend that?
Can I?
Very easy to bend, right?
It's
extremely easy to bend. And
felt very strong there.
And that's why we use it, is because it's very malleable. And then we use horseshoe nails, actually, to keep the window in place, because it's very important, like I said, to keep it tight. And the nice thing about a horseshoe nail is that it's a flat nail, so our tables last longer. And if you ever nailed it up against the glass, it wouldn't chip. Like a round nail might chip the glass. And so it's a very, all these little tiny things that have been kind of used for centuries, we're still doing today.
Very intentional for every tool.
Everything you see has been thought out at some point. So this is the oldest part of the building. So this is where we're cementing the panels. So the window's been leaded, and you can kind of see on this panel here, we've patinaed it down. So we use a cement with a lampblack dye in it. And so what we're doing is we're sealing the windows. So this cement will go in between the lead and the glass to create kind of a seal, a waterproof seal. It helps stiffen the panel, because the panel otherwise can be very flimsy. And then the last thing that will happen is that we'll add steel bars across the panels. So these bars are attached, and then the bars engage with the frame to help redistribute the weight of the panel to the frame. And so that's kind of a very important process to the longevity of the window. We do everything from the very beginning to the very end. Everyone has to work as a team, so a lot of these things are really important to being able to make windows that achieve what they were intended to do, and also stand the test of time. And so that's something that we take pride in, because it's all handmade. So there's no machines.
That's why it's still very relevant today, even though it's centuries old.
So now we're at our second facility, which is our fusing facility, but we also have our glass painting over here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the painting, and then we'll go into the fusing studio.
Okay.
So over here, Inja's working on the monastery window. So we saw that window being cut, the other studio.
Right.
And now we're painting it.
It sounds like you know about the job we're working on. This is the design behind me. I'm generally the person working on, actually I am the one working on all the scenes. So this would be kind of a medieval scene. So I'm using medieval glass, a window within a window. And if I turn off the lights, it's much better, easier to see what the glass paint looks like when it is not fired. As you can see, stained glass always needs a light source, otherwise it reads black. Once I have the lights on, and normally this would be natural light, but as we're working, in this day and age, we have these large light boxes, which are basically just big light panels, so we work on a lamp to see through what we're doing.
Now, are there different techniques that you usually use?
You apply paint in different ways. I'll do my line work, and as an example of the line work, you can see this was all painted by hand, everything's painted by hand. Or something like this manuscript page. I'm going to be adding some color to this. This is a detail also in the same scene. Usually I use an oil, so I use regular brushes for typical like paint lines. I'm not painting anything now, I could just show you on the line work. So generally this is an oil. So we can pull with natural hair brushes and our glass paint, once it's mixed with the oil, I can make line work. And then the other way of working is that I cover the piece of glass completely with glass paint, and then I pull it out. You go edge to edge, and now this has paint underneath it already, but that's relatively smooth. This is a finished scene from the lower on the other table. This section here, this is that section finished. Maybe when I'm working on these, I can get these two together at once. So you can see stages.
You're telling me this is all you. You're amazing.
No, thank you. I can't take full credit because the borders are painted by other painters. There's no end to what you can do with this medium. And you know, I'm an illustrator on glass and I'm making something. Sorry, I'm not getting choked up. I'm just trying to find my words. I'm a little choked up. Glass is a unique art form, or stained glass is a unique art form because they're generally, not always, is beautiful in and of itself. But I am fortunate enough to do something maybe to embody something larger than ourselves in a moment of meditation or contemplation, that this is going to an audience that might find solace in something I've done.
You think you can work that mat just a little bit now?
Sure, I think.
No pressure.
Do we want to give you a try? Well, we don't want to mess up your beautiful outfit. This is not the greatest medium to work in, but if you want to give it a go, I'm going to actually let you do this. So just to remove.
Oh my. David is here to watch me.
See if you've learned anything today.
There are any number of brushes. I will give you maybe one of the brushes I like, and just there's no mistake here. We won't fire it. We'll just let you play. So go ahead and just, I don't know, give it a try.
Okay.
Just scribble in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Uh-huh.
Not nervous at all, you know.
Don't be intimidated. It's a little satisfying though.
It
to give
really
yourself
is.
over, right?
It's very satisfying. You're kind of working backwards.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. We're working up our tones when we work this way, so that the lights become our lightest lights. So however dark your base glass is, that's as light as you can get, and then the shine comes through.
Yeah, this is really fun.
Yeah.
I won't mess with it anymore. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for being a good sport.
Thank you so much.
So this is the Fusing Studio, and we've been here about 7 years now. And this is the studio that we built for the Methodist Church in Kansas. So here we're basically fusing glass, where you take different colors of glass and fuse them together. And so not only are you working with sheet glass, but you can also use frit. And frit is basically ground up glass that's like sand. Josh, for example, right now is working on what we call frit sheets. So he's working on a kiln bed, and he is spreading frit onto a planned sheet that we've created to get the effects of certain colors and transitions of color that we want. But this is a technique that we created through a lot of trial and error to figure out how to create frit. Because as you can see, his drawing is disappearing as he's spreading the frit. And so he's got to go layer by layer so that he knows how much frit he's putting down, and he needs to know where his colors are going on the sheet. So you can see some of these sheets have 2 or 3, sometimes 4 colors. So the frit sheet comes out kind of like this. And you can see the shape that's going to be cut out. And then once we cut up the shapes, then you can see we lay them out into this, in this case, this big, beautiful bird. So this is a bird with all of these different transitions of color that are laid out. What we found is how difficult it is to paint these massive lines, right? And get them to look like the artist, what the artist want. So we had the artist draw his drawings in a computer, and we converted those computer files into files that we could send to the water jet and actually cut lines. So his line work, you can see, is actually showing up as the black glass.
Oh, wow.
So instead of painting, we're using actual glass to create.
And it's so precise.
Yeah, exactly. It's so amazing what we can do with the water jet because it cuts perfectly. So these have been fused, right, to create these transitions of color. And now we're piecing them with all the black glass, which has been cut. We take those panels and we put them into the kiln to create a single piece. This single piece has all of the line work and all the color work fused together in one. We're gonna cut this piece on the water jet along with the background panels, which you can kind of see back here. And we'll take this cut piece and that cut piece, we'll put them together in the kiln again and fuse them one more time. So,
so it's a layer within another layer, right?
Within another layer.
Yeah, within another layer.
So it's like 3 layers of glass that we're actually putting together because we'll have to put a clear cap on top of it. You know, when we made the decision to move into fusing, there was it was a philosophical choice that,
Yeah.
how do we stay true? Like, are we cheating by using a water jet or, something like that? But to me, I feel like the use of glass and the manipulation of glass is really something that we feel really strongly kind of holds a tradition in and of itself. This combining of these things, I think, really allows us to do things that are kind of cutting edge and also bringing this kind of light and richness that we talked about earlier to other spaces, right? And to a larger audience. And so it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
David, thank you so much for taking us through the Judson legacy and allowing us to see what happens behind the scenes in the studio.
Thanks for coming. I love sharing what our people do every day. They're so talented and work with such passion to create wonderful works of art. I love sharing the work that goes behind them.
You really put into perspective the amount of passion and love and talent that goes into these projects. So thank you for that. Also, one of the things that really stood out to me is the power of light and how it's needed for the different colors to shine in these masterpieces. And I think that's one of the things that we should take away is we should let our light shine, not just in our art, but in our everyday life.